Hi, welcome back to Even More News Tuesday, crew. I'm Katy Stoll.
It's Cruise Day with the gang. How's it going, everybody and everybody else? I'm Cody Johnston. Good morning.
Jonathan is also here.
Hi. First and only hi from me.
Yeah.
So most of the world is coming around to the very obvious fact that Gaza is starving, though I would say most politicians, including many Democrats, are continuing to absolve Israel for blame for any of this. Gaza is just starving because that's a thing that's happening. The details are gruesome and excruciating, and the seemingly endless photos of starving children are, it seems, beginning to break through to people over here.
Years later.
Yeah, it's been a couple years, and we'll talk about this whole debate that is raging online of if it is too little, too late, and what people, is it right to scold the people who took until now to come around to this fact?
Discourse. Yes.
To kick this off, I want to highlight Cory Booker's statement, which is called Booker's Statement on Catastrophic Hunger in Gaza. It talks accurately about the crisis in Gaza, that there is desperately needed food, water, and medicine, that the strategy of the, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which, as we talked about last week, was intended to replace the UN aid program, has not worked. But what it doesn't say is why this is happening or how this is happening. In fact, the only mention of Israel in this statement is saying we must do all we can to address the humanitarian crisis, release all remaining hostages, strengthen Israel's security, and ultimately end this war.
Did you think that he drafted up this letter while he was hiding behind that person in that photo with Netanyahu? I think he was just like, I'll write it here. This is the time.
There are photos of him with Netanyahu.
Oh, yeah. He didn't need to hide. We all know.
Now that it's a topic of conversation that politicians are being asked about Gaza again, they're saying, how do we get aid in? There's now pressure on Israel to get aid in. They are airdropping food and medicine in, which apparently...
And is airdropping a good way to deliver food and medicine, Jonathan?
Apparently not, because then you're just scattering it, and people will crowd around it and fight over it. The aid organizations, like professional aid organizations, will say that this risks lives.
Not to mention, who's underneath wherever something is being dropped, but okay.
Yes, and a number of politicians, including the president, continue to insist that the UN aid was ineffective because Hamas was stealing all the food and supplies, even though a number of Israeli officials anonymously told the New York Times that there is no evidence that that was happening. And in fact, the UN aid mission was being effective until it was stopped.
Yeah, they're not even necessarily adjusting any sort of opinions about the situation. They're just sort of saying this thing that is undeniable, unlike the other things that were undeniable as well. This is bad. It looks bad. I feel like part of it is just that it's this undeniable thing. You can't argue for starving children. I mean, you can, I guess, but they know that they can't. And so this is something that they have to say is bad. But there's this Ross Douthat article. We recently mentioned him. I think he's the guy who interviewed Peter Thiel and was like, are you not the Antichrist? Or maybe you are, He's
a New York Times opinion columnist, if you're not familiar.
Sort of conservative reasonableist. I don't know how he would describe himself. One of those fucking guys. And he has this piece in the New York Times, and it's called "How Israel's War Became Unjust." Yeah, you got a lot of the expected folks like Iglesias sharing this, like, wow, there's something to think about here. It just right out of the gate, the first line is Israel's war in Gaza is not a genocide. So you failed, Ross. You fucked up.
There's nothing to back that up, by the way. He just says that.
You should consult the various people who've written in your publication who are like scholars of genocide and history who say the opposite. But I'll take your first sentence with no follow-up Fine, great. There's this second paragraph. The war's heartbreaking civilian toll is inextricably linked to that terrorist government's refusal to obey the laws of war, its unwillingness to surrender no matter how much its own people suffer, its willingness to accept famine rather than give up control of humanitarian aid, its inclination to let ceasefire negotiations spin endlessly in the apparent hope that international pressure will save it from defeat. This is just this isn't accurate. None of this is accurate. None of this is happening. It's not based in reality. And like no mention of like the many, many, many times that Israel and Netanyahu have been like, no, we're not doing the ceasefire. We are. We're like over and over again. This is just not the case. And the article just continues and continues and continues with stuff like that, pointing out like, oh, here Israel has made a strategic choice trying to separate food distribution from a system that it argues Hamas was exploiting for its own purposes. But if your strategic choice leads to children dying of starvation when the food is available to feed them, then a civilized nation has to make a different choice, even if that makes things easier for its enemies to some degree. First of all, I didn't hear this argument made when for years I was like, well, they gotta bomb everybody because they've got human shields. Is that not? So you got to make that decision. You got to do the human shields for the war for these reasons. But when you're starving children on purpose, you can't do that.
Yeah, suddenly they don't want to use the same justifications. Like, it seems like it worked for you for a year and a half to use those justifications. Like, well, they have the kids they're holding in front of them, so we got to blow them all up.
We got to blow up.
So we got to starve them all.
We don't want them to get the food, so we got to starve the kids too.
They look like kids, but they're just tiny terrorists.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing. That's all I'll read of it, but it's a lot of stuff like that, and even ignoring that it's not true. Many of the things he's saying are just simply not how things went down, and how things happened. If you're typing the phrase here, Israel has made a strategic choice trying to separate food distribution from a system, blah, 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 blah. Is that the only strategic choice they've made that is really bad? That like if you
strategic towards what end?
Right. If you're looking at this decision as like it's a strategic choice to starve these children, that is an act of genocide, right? So is it the only time they've done that? Is this the only moment where they've acted out this intention that has been clear for so long? It's just very, very, very dishonest and weird. But at the same time, you have this impulse of like, okay, well, at least you're mad about the famine. So, okay, let's stop this going on. You know,
it is good that people care about the famine.
It's a very frustrating tension.
Something. I don't think that it absolves people from the rest of it.
Because he's also still doing
not
it.
Caring, still doing it. But what we're witnessing are people realizing finally the thing that all of us have been saying, which is this is horrific. And generations from now, we will be studying this and talking about how this was allowed to happen. And there will be official documentation of all your fucking little loser tweets and your fucking think pieces that you put out. So there's some amount of hedging.
But they'll still be able to claim, oh, well, I was always against it. They'll still do that.
100%. But this has been happening the whole time. We have been talking about acute malnutrition and starvation for a very long time now. From what I understand, some of the worst effects have been staved off because there have been, prior to this administration anyway, when these changes and how we distribute aid came about, there was some food aid going through, and it's not like people were healthy, but there was some amount. And now it's done. It's cut off. People are killing themselves trying to access food. We're watching irreversible starvation happen to the point where even if these children, and we're only talking about the children because that pulls on everyone's heartstrings, the entire country,
yes.
Adults, teenagers, so
all kinds of human beings
kinds, yes. But let's focus on the children. If they are lucky enough to survive this horror, lifelong health problems, whether or not you'll even be able to have children, what kind of genetic deformities happen after suffering this for generations,
developmental issues, all kinds of things,
issues,
also dying.
Also, I just want to it goes along with all of that. Doctors going to Gaza to help to provide aid are being stripped of formula. There's limitations on what aid can go into the country because, maybe it could be used as a weapon. There's no justification for taking away infant formula unless you want those infants to die.
Right. And that's what people seem to not be able to like admit still, obviously, that some of them never will. But like, if that's the intention now, what was the intention a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago? What was always the intention that was always explained in many, many ways over the years that they still are like, well, we're right about this. Eventually the facts change and now we're right. But everything else.
Like, I was looking for that. I think it was an Iglesias tweet. And in my looking, I found like 2 other things that made me really upset. But like, I think he referenced maybe that Ross Douthat op-ed and said, here's a take. I think it's good to be able to change your mind when the facts change.
A good case for changing your mind when the facts change. Exactly. Yeah.
I think he's making the argument that things got worse, that the famine that everyone said was going to happen and the humanitarian crisis that has been ongoing got worse over the last 3-4 months. But the facts didn't really change. It's not like there was a significant change in policy. It's just, this is the next step in the genocide progression.
The intention was always there and very clear.
Yeah.
And like the fact that changed is like, well, then it happened like we said it would. It was continuing. Like there's no like, oh, it's getting to this point and then it gets to that point like, oh, the facts have changed. No, the facts were the same the entire way there.
And we've told you where this was going. Look, I have multiple thoughts on welcoming people in. First off, every voice that is condemning this, I genuinely say, welcome.
Yeah.
I want your voice. And I've obviously talked a lot about having conversations with people that disagree with you and how we approach people that change their mind. I guess I think it's important to accept people and have conversations with them, but I also think it's important for people to acknowledge where they went wrong. I think it's important for people to be able to reflect. I don't consider myself perfect. I don't think anybody is, but I do consider myself pretty good at being able to acknowledge when I'm wrong about something. And for some reason, everybody gets so dug in and they refuse. Like if I admit weakness, then you need to be able to say, this is how I got fooled. Have some amount of self-reflection. And I think that's what people are desperate for, like, because we're all losing our minds.
Well, because also if you don't have that, and it's like I agree with you generally, completely.
Yeah.
But in situations like this specifically, it's so much more important to do what you're talking about, because if you're not reflecting and figuring out where, like, well, what was I wrong about, or like, how did I get there, or like, why is this suddenly bad to me? Like, if you're not reflecting and figuring that out, then you're not actually addressing the problem. Like that Douthat article or whatever. It's like, okay, you're saying this famine is bad, but every single other thing you're saying is just like not true and not addressing the actual problem. If you're looking at this and going, well, they finally did something wrong, then you can't actually help the team, right? Like
you're not diagnosing.
Like, oh, welcome to the tent. You can deny that it's happening again when we, like it's just
Yeah, it's saying, well, I must have been right before, and I also know I am right now. So let me, through words, engineer a way that it must have been true.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why I think this whole debate, which I think was started between like Tommy Vitor and David Klein, unless I'm misremembering.
I think Felix jumped in at one point.
Yeah, and the idea of like, well, the left would rather scold the people who are now, jumping in and on the right side of history. And I'm not doubting that there are annoying people on the internet who are scolding people. 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the issue right now? Is that the problem right now? There's a sense that if a few online leftists scold you, that you are going to vote for a Trump third term in a few years. Like, other than their feelings being a little bit hurt because they're unwilling to admit that they were wrong, what's the relevance of that? Right,
exactly. It's just you're sort of like relitigating like old beefs and like venting your hurt feelings. Like it doesn't do anything other than that.
We're like pretending that it does more than it does. Like it's going to drive people away. That's the whole reason Trump is in power right now, is because you online leftists drove them away, and that's the like the not hyperbolic one. I still think it's wrong. But then you have this other Iglesias tweet, which I saw. Well, he wrote, "The thing conservatives are most correct about is that mainstream liberals have a baffling tendency to be soft on the kind of hard leftists who quite openly admit that they want to kill liberals." What? Who? Huh?
Yeah, I think that guy's a liar. I think Matt Iglesias is a filthy little liar, actually.
Who are they, though? Who is he talking about?
I assume he's talking about like some like anonymous account with a bunch of numbers and like name, like it's just random Twitter accounts.
Right. It's not like the Chapo guys are being like, here's the list of liberals to kill today. Is that what's happening?
Like, I assume they think like, oh, Hassan and Chapo are. It's like, but they're not. You can't say that. Show me. So
many double standards always, every day. But, people will say, well, that's just some fringe freaks online on the right, calling. That's not, and it's just, well, you don't give that grace to the left to say, like, you're just giving a bad faith. It's all bad faith.
Oh, yeah. There are like really like violent, disgusting, like centrists out there who say like awful shit about whether it's a race or just leftists in general, whatever it is. So the idea that this is true is absurd. He is a guy who often will say things like that simply to plant ideas like that into. I mean, he's said very explicitly, even in terms of like abundance and like these other things, like, yeah, this is because I don't like progressives and I want them out of this movement. He's very, very clear about that. So when he posts things like this, it's just to get people to turn on the left broadly, and that's just what he's doing.
I hate to do this. I really do hate to do this. But I'm afraid we do need to talk about some Epstein updates. I feel so frustrated by the whole situation and how much time does get sucked up talking about it, except that it has to, because they're trying so fucking hard to bury this and to change their narrative in the conversation. And I think it's important. I think we have to keep talking about it and not let it go away.
Yeah, it's, I mean, there's, aside from the fact that this is clearly a point of contention in some of the MAGA folks, and this is something that could actually like help people get out of this cult of Trumpism. Aside from that, I mean, we have an episode coming out on Wednesday about this, but I think I'm probably not speaking for anybody on the podcast when I say our position is generally, yeah, he's a pedophile rapist, the President Trump, and he's going allegedly. Yeah, Jonathan thinks allegedly. I think definitely.
No, I'm not saying allegedly because I believe personally it's allegedly. I'm saying for legal reasons.
Oh, legally. No, exactly. I'm saying Jonathan for legal reasons, allegedly. Me for legal reasons, definitely. You fucking rapist pedophile, Donald Trump. Come sue me. I'm sure you have plenty of time to do that. But in addition to all of that, he is. And we shouldn't have him in charge of anything, of people. He shouldn't be in polite society. He needs to go away because of even ignoring all of the policy stuff. That's an evil man. He shouldn't be allowed to be the president or in polite society. So, but what's going on now is that he is trying to gaslight the entire nation and his supporters and everybody into thinking that actually I'm the only one that's not actually. It's like everybody else is but me. And he's might get away with it. And that's disgusting. And we can't let him get away with it. And part of that is talking about it more and keeping it in people's minds. And that sucks because it is a really horrific thing to have to talk about. And also he's so obviously guilty every single day. We're going to watch him be obviously guilty in a moment.
There's been a lot of talk about him potentially pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. People are asking him about it every day, and he's like, well, I haven't really thought about it. I'm allowed to do it.
I'm allowed to.
I'm not, but I haven't really thought about it. I guess Todd Blanche met with her, and she has been granted some kind of limited immunity. I haven't seen any concrete details about that. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer really seems to be acting like this pardon is forthcoming because of all of the truth-telling she is about to do.
They're claiming the DOJ never interviewed her before. Trump's personal defense attorney went and interviewed her, now works for the DOJ.
But, like, she was convicted of federal sex trafficking crimes. Yes. Was it state or federal? I mean, I guess if it wasn't a state federal charge or something. But what are you talking about? What are you talking about? The FBI were never talked to her, interrogated her. She did not give anyone, including, potentially Bill Clinton, potentially Donald Trump, etc., up. That's what is going on here. But this morning, Trump was asked about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, as he is a lot, and about their falling out specifically. We have been told, or I have seen basically every conservative pundit on Fox News and elsewhere
in real life, all over the world.
And the people who work for Trump, including his press secretary and communications directors, saying Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. Right? Yep. That's why he did it. He knew kind of he was up to no good and kicked him out for being a creep. Here is what Donald Trump himself this morning said about why he kicked him out of his exclusive Palm Beach club.
We can assume confirmation. Great.
People keep writing stories about the time he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach to begin?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that work for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
So wait, it wasn't because he was being a creep with a club member.
It's so funny when he directly contradicts everyone who works for him.
They work so hard for this man, and he makes it so difficult every day. I can't believe. Okay. The reporting was also that it wasn't because he was a creep. It was because of a real estate deal. They were both going after property in Palm Beach, and they were like trying to outbid each other. And that was the other explanation for their falling out. So now we have a brand new explanation for this falling out, and it was because he hired some of the people who worked at Mar-a-Lago. He could have even said he was trying to hire our servers or whatever, and they were really young, and he could have alluded to the claim, but he didn't. He's made up another reason that is legal. It's you can hire whoever, I guess. So their falling out was over this, and then he ended that explanation by saying, and to tell you the truth, I'm glad I did now, which implies that he had no idea what was going on. That implies that he broke up with Epstein because he's hiring my workers, and I didn't like that. And then later found out that he was a creep, and now is saying, I'm glad I did in retrospect because I found out later that he was a creep. So
I guess to credit Trump here, his wheels are spinning, and he's like, you know what? It's not a great excuse that I kicked him out for being a creep, because that suggests that I knew at least a little bit of what he was up to. It does
suggest
that,
doesn't it?
I have nothing to do with it. So on the fly, he's either telling the truth, kind of, like it was about the real estate deal.
It was a personal thing. It wasn't about, exactly.
That no one else has known about except him and whoever he yacked about it to 20 years ago. And he's like, well, we had this great guy who worked at the pool, and then he was working at Epstein's pool, and I said, don't do that to me, or whatever. Or it could have been, an accountant or something. Who knows? He's just trying to distance himself away from it so much that he's now moving away from I'm an anti-sexual harassment guy, which I don't even think his most hardcore supporters believe. They're like, he's a flawed vessel, or it's good that he does all this stuff.
He takes what he wants or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, most of his supporters are not Azalea Banksing, where they're saying it's good that he probably
it's all true and good children. Is a move I didn't think was going to happen this early.
It's kind of immaterial. He just appears to be, allegedly to me, the guiltiest man who's ever lived.
Guiltiest man who's ever lived.
He most certainly is. This is all a clown show. This is all so fucking obvious.
Why would he say that? Why would he this is not what I expected him to even Like, why? Like, don't answer the question. He tried not to answer the question, obviously, but like,
He said, I don't want to bore you with the details.
it's just like one of the, like, if you're in the situation, okay, well, as the guiltiest man who ever lived, surely there are some like talking points that my enemies have about this particular situation. And one of them is, like this is one of them. Bone up on this so you can not contradict both what your supporters are saying and what the alternative explanation was already. You're giving a third reason and then saying in hindsight it was a good reason because he turned out later to be a creep. What's going on?
He's flailing.
We can't let him get away with this. He's a monster.
It is so remarkable how bad they are at messaging across the board. I mean, he'll say whatever comes out of his mouth and then everybody has to scramble. He makes more messes and raises more questions for himself every fucking day. And they just, on nothing can they get their act together. Not that I mind it in this situation, because, give me more evidence. But also, it's not going to do shit. It might.
It might.
It might.
For some people, it might. I do want to point out, so this is, and again, we've talked about this for weeks. As soon as this really started going, we're like, okay, so they're going to try to pretend to like release the grand jury. They're going to try to pardon Maxwell, and they're going to fake like the idea of these, like there's credible files, there's uncredible files, right? And they've tried to do all three of those. And even today, earlier, Mike Johnson said that Biden DOJ could have doctored files. So they're just going all in on that idea. Whatever.
And then left them to be undoctored by the Trump administration. What are we?
Doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they doctor him and use him?
Also, he said it today. He said it's a hoax that has been built up way beyond proportion. Those files were run by the worst scum on earth. Comey, Garland, Biden, and all of the people that actually led the government, including the AutoPen. The whole thing is a hoax. So you bring up the AutoPen just out of the blue about this, but you're also putting Garland and Comey in the same. What do you fired Comey in like the first month? What are you talking about?
All of the little conspiracy threads are coming together. He's going to be like, it's the weather machine that did the Comey files, and the QAnon shaman guy did it. I don't know. Like, he used to be a big Trump guy. Now he's not so much.
He's not so much anymore.
And then we're going to have, I almost said.
Is he not so much anymore?
No, the shaman.
He's against
QAnon shaman's out.
Right?
I almost said Kayleigh McEnany. Carolyn Leavitt is going to be up there today saying the president has been perfectly consistent in all his messaging. He has always maintained that Jeffrey Epstein was a kind of a creep and also poached his longtime butler. Or
the brand new information that we just got.
Pretend that he said it 1,000 times. He said it as much as he talks about Hannibal Lecter and the sharks.
Yes, that is going to happen. It is so frustrating, and sort of to Katie's point of like, we need to. It is important to keep this going, even though it's a lot, because they're going to keep doing that, and they're going to. It's so blatant, and it's all in the service of protecting this pedophile rapist. One thing that I did want to mention before we move on, if we're going to move on, is this Maxwell pardon that's definitely coming down the pipeline. They're obviously going to try. We'll see. But they are already softening her image. Some freak from Newsmax. There's one guy in particular who talks like Trump on purpose, it seems. And he is talking about how Ghislaine's a victim, and there's this one thing. It's like, oh yeah, like sure, she hung out with Epstein, and apparently that's bad these days. Hung out with Epstein, I can't
Apparently
believe
that's
it.
Bad these days.
Convicted sex trafficker.
It's so upsetting, and they're going to keep trying to do this. Everyone in his orbit is trying to do this. They're going to try to soften her image and soften her image and soften her image. And I just wanted to point out there were interview, maybe CBS, I forget, interviewed some of his victims and talking. They were like Virginia and some others were talking about, this isn't like new, talking about her. And she's a monster too. She participated.
She participated.
She did it.
She was the madam. She was
exactly. She called them her slave. Like it was abusive from her too. She is a terrible human being too.
She would tell these teenagers, just do whatever he asks and you'll do great. You know, he's like shepherding them along into this monstrous situation.
It just does totally underscore that they don't actually care about pedophiles. They don't actually care about protecting children in any capacity.
Yeah.
Months ago, Bondi told Trump that he's in the file.
Yeah.
Months ago. All of them knew
Yep.
that months ago, and they have been lying about it ever since until all of this explodes, you know, conveniently timed around when Musk first starts tweeting about it. It's just in my core, these people, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about justice or any of it. Because if this was reversed, they would have been screaming about how this is a massive cover up for the past few months.
They would be
about
right.
the entire DOJ.
They'd be so
and they would
right.
be right. And yet that isn't even on people's radar. It keeps me up at night.
Yeah, it's like Mehdi Hassan told those Nazis, this is a pro-crime administration. Donald Trump is pro-crime, like actively. It's not like he just likes it when you do a crime, but he is totally fine with crimes as long as they abet his ends. So he'll pardon anyone, he'll make any deal necessary. He's the art of the deal guy. But in terms of this is the standard GOP, like tough on crime party, it's absurd. And any of those Republican senators or members of Congress who are still running on like tough on crime, they always were running on racism, but now they're really, really, really running on racism because it's the kind of crime that is committed and by whom and in what context that they care about.
Yes, that is true. And but we'll hear all about it, I'm sure, in a year and a half on Ghislaine Maxwell's podcast that she will have
with Maddie Iglesias saying like, well, I learned new information and my Bayesian priors changed.
Priors, God. It's important to change your mind.
But we did it. We're done.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Yeah, we are.
Check out our video on Epstein on Wednesday.
And one of his good friends. Can you guess which one?
Well, let's not ruin all the surprises. It's like when you show the trailer to a movie, but it gives you every plot.
Yeah, we don't want to.
No. Tune in to find out who his best friend is.
Little cameo in the post credits from one of his very good friends.
I'm building a team of monsters.
And it's just us two.
Yeah, it's us.
It's just.
All right, we're out of here. Hey, you at home?
Oh.
Thanks for watching. I hope you're taking care of yourself for real. And I want you to know.
Know it.
We love you very much.